You can now deploy a Google ADK agent straight to LangSmith Deployments. So if you built an agent with Google's Agent Development Kit, and you've been wondering how to get it running on some managed infrastructure with built-in persistence, streaming, and tracing, LangSmith Deployment is a great option for taking your agent into production. There's a small wrapper package that will turn your ADK runner into a LangSmith Deployment compatible agent, and from there you can deploy it just like any other agent onto LangSmith. Let's go ahead and jump into the code, and I'll show you the whole process end to end. Okay, so here we are in our project. What we're going to build today is just a very basic kind of personal task manager that's going to keep track of different tasks that I need to complete on a day-to-day basis. So let's go ahead and jump into our agent.py, and we can look at the actual implementation of this agent. So we can see here, we are importing in a few different things. We're going to import in this agent from Google ADK.agents. We'll import in this runner, and this is going to be how we actually execute and run the agent within a session, which we'll talk more about later. And then also our tool context, and we're going to import in this saf_sdk.adk. And this is a Google ADK integration with our LangSmith deployments. So you'll see here, we include this LangSmith session service, and this is going to allow us to use LangSmith Deployment's checkpointing system. And we're also going to use this wrap function to wrap this actual Google ADK runner so that we can maintain that short-term persistence and keep that thread level memory going when we're interacting with our agent. So in terms of the actual code, pretty straightforward. So we're going to have a few different priorities by default, and this just allows us to assign tasks different priorities. We have a few helper functions here to load, save, and find them. We then have a function here in order to create a tool for adding new tasks. So we pass in the title and priority, or rather our LLM does, and then it'll return back its status. We have the ability to list tasks through a similar process. It can also mark a task as completed, delete a task, and it can also summarize the user's task list. So these are just different tools that we're giving our agent. And this is how we have to define them with Google ADK, is using this tool context here. Great. So the next step is to actually define our agent. So you'll see here with Google ADK, we can define an agent. We can give it a name. We can use a model. We can also define a description for this agent. And we can give it a system prompt or instruction here on how it should kind of operate and use these different tools. And then lastly, we'll add in our tools as a list. So pretty basic. So far, all we've done is create an actual like Google ADK agent. So nothing too bespoke here. The next step is we're actually going to go ahead and wrap our agent. This is our wrap function, and this comes from our LangSmith Deployment wrap SDK. And what we're going to do here is pass that, or rather wrap the actual runner class with that wrap function. And this will allow us again to pass in a session service, which is a way to add in that short-term memory or that persistence layer for checkpointing. And this is going to use LangSmith for that persistence layer. Great. So now that we have our ADK agent defined and we've wrapped it with this LangSmith Deployment wrap SDK, we're now ready to actually test this out locally before we go and deploy it. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is open our terminal, and we'll run UV sync in order to install all the dependencies that we need. From there, we need to make sure that we have all of our environment variables. So let's go ahead and check out what those are. If I go into this .env.example, you'll see that we'll just need a Gemini API key in order to run this, and then a LangSmith API key as well. So we'll go ahead and set those in a .env file here. Then the next step is go over into our langgraph.json, and you see this is all the scaffolding that we need in order to actually test this agent locally, and then deploy it eventually onto LangSmith Deployment. So let's go ahead and give this a try locally. I can open up my terminal. I can run UV run langgraph dev. And you can see that automatically opened up LangSmith Studio inside of my browser. What I can do from here is now I can actually interact with this agent. So let's go ahead and give it a try. Ask it to add buy groceries as a high priority task. So you can see in Studio, we're able to see everything going on, and we can see that I was able to kind of create this task for us. If I go over into this trace, we can also see this in a trace view. And we can see our agent actually went ahead and added that buy grocery as part of our task. The other thing that I can do in Studio is switch over to a chat mode. We can see that it responded, okay, I added buy groceries as a high priority task. Great, so now that we know that our agent is working well locally, the next step is we can actually go ahead and deploy this onto LangSmith Deployment. So let's go back over into our project. So back in our project, the next thing I can do is actually go ahead and deploy this agent. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my terminal. I'm going to do UV run langgraph deploy. It's going to ask me for a deployment name. So I'm just going to call this ADK demo. You can see it's going to pick up our environment variables and then go ahead and actually deploy this agent for us. So we'll check back in after that's completed. All right, so our agent is now deployed. Just took a few minutes here, and I can see the URL for our deployment is here, and I can actually go check it out if I want to by following this link. And we can see our ADK agent is healthy and deployed. It'll come with all the benefits of your LangSmith deployments. So I can open up these API docs and I can see all of the different endpoints that our agent now comes with, including threads, thread runs, cron jobs, stateless runs, A2A, MCP, all different ways that you can use and interact with your agent through our built-in agent server for every deployment. Back in our deployments dashboard, you'll see that we have a dashboard for traces when they come in through our LangSmith integration. We have our production-ready API URL, and I can even open this up and connect with our agent in Studio. I can connect to it via our TypeScript and Python SDKs, and I can also interact with it via A2A protocol. If I want to test this agent out, I can actually go ahead and just open it up in Studio. And we can say, hello, create a task to go buy some new shoes. You see it was able to create a new task. I can even switch over to the graph view and add another message here and say, what tasks do I have? We can see we have that built-in persistence through our LangSmith deployment, and we can continue to interact with our agent that says you have one pending task to buy some new shoes. This is one of the many benefits you get with LangSmith deployment, so we're excited to bring Google ADK and other frameworks into the LangSmith deployment ecosystem. And that's it for today. We took a standard Google ADK agent, we wrapped it with one function call from our wrap SDK, we're able to deploy it onto LangSmith deployments, getting persistence, streaming, and tracing out of the box. If you're building with Google ADK, you can now run them on LangSmith deployment. There's so many amazing features in LangSmith deployment we weren't able to cover in today's video, so I'll drop a link to the docs and this demo repo in the description.